Good evening. I'm Jeff Deck, and tonight I had a cheeseburger and fries for the first time in a month, and it was delightful. I'd like to bring to you what I believe is reading number 4 from the Pseudo-Chronicles of Mark Huntley, but first I'd like to give a little author shout out to my fellow author Ed Kurtz, whose Western called Boon, B-O-O-N, just released recently. You should check that out. So we are here with the blog of Mr. Mark Huntley in book format, and we are on Wednesday, September 8th, 2004. So we're going to pick up with an entry called Quietly Cruel. I was having more trouble with my right eye today. The fuzzy area is back in my vision, and this time it just won't go away. Maybe it was there all along and I hadn't noticed it over the weekend, though that seems unlikely. Today and yesterday, though, I can confirm that it's been there. You know, since I have to stare at a pupil-withering computer screen as part of the sacred duties of my employment. I made an appointment to see the eye doctor, if I can still see by then, next week. My last check-in with Dr. Leonsis was only 6 months ago, but he won't complain about taking more of my money. I probably don't have anything to worry about though, huh? He beseeches his reader. Anyway, more on the computer part of my job. A fact checker, in case you're curious, must often turn to his trusty cyber companions, LexisNexis and Google. Sure, I do have to call a lot of random people to confirm details in articles and get snarked at or shouted at when those details are unpleasant. But sometimes it's just as easy to use the internet. Lexis never avoids you through its secretary or lies about its stock holdings. So I spend a good amount of time crossing my eyes in front of a 15-inch monitor, but whatever almost pays the bills, right? There are parts of my work that are worse. Much worse, in fact. Take my supervisor, for example. The editor, Gerald Ryloff, or so he shall be named in this world, hands off articles to me and the other fact checker, and then decides whether we've done a good enough job checking the facts. Gerald looks harmless. He's thin, pale, and on the small side of the measuring tape. And he wears little half-moon spectacles and pastel button-up shirts. His eyes are always misting, as if someone has gently suggested to him that all he believes is wrong. You'd think, therefore, that he's one of the guys who shall inherit the earth. You know, the meekest link. And indeed, his quiet, quavering voice might support your theory at first. Then you realize that voice is ripping apart your work line by line without compassion, probing you by your errors and oversights until you feel like the stupidest person on earth. Excuse me, Mark, but I was wondering why you didn't check these dates on page 4. Is there a reason you didn't? Is that reason because you were too lazy to check them? Or were you too careless? If you wouldn't mind telling me, I'm very curious. Then the expressionless gaze. Always that. Heartless dissections don't go over well with me, and they definitely don't go over well with my fellow fact-checker, Deb, a mother of 2 with a cloud of frizzy hair and a hearty dose of adult-onset diabetes. Gerald makes Deb cry at least once a week. Even when he doesn't see the waterworks, he knows that they're happening. He's even commented about them to me. Granted, Deb is kind of a sloppy fact-checker. She let a blatant lie about funding slip past us in an article 2 weeks ago. But she does the best she can, and I think we all deserve to be treated with some modicum of respect. One of these days, boy howdy, I'm going to make Gerald take his words back. I can't be a coward forever, can I? Gerald's one saving grace in my view is that he's not that observant himself. Ironic, is it not? Ergo, the cruel little snot never even notices when I'm gone for 2 hours or more under the pretense of lunch. And for this I say, thank you, Lord. I wouldn't be able to deal with that place without an occasional midday escape. Or whatever the word is for slightly more than occasional. Thought I smelled chlorine today while out for a walk from somebody in the noonday crowd. But if Mr. Pool Party was there, I didn't spot him. Quite possible there is a secret pool nearby and everyone knows about it but me. Don't be afraid to invite me along, good people. I'll be sure to bring my trunks to work. And I'll wear goggles because these peepers are my moneymakers. Posted by Mark Huntley at 11:27 p.m. How you doing, Kate? Let's move on to the next entry. Friday, September 10th, 2004. Black's the Night and How You Shrink. Today was a beautiful day by any barometer. Open blue sky, temperature not too hot. And everyone, except weekend slaves, mind you, rejoicing in the Fridayness. And yet I sank right into a foul mood. See, I think I figured out why I had such a bad premonition the other day. The world is about to break. Don't you feel it too? I've been looking at the newspapers too much, listening to the talking heads and visiting the CNN website far too often. I know there's always going to be wretched things playing out on the global stage. Historically, this is just the way they roll. But these past couple of weeks have seen some truly awful catastrophes, tragedies. Is there some word that doesn't trivialize these things the instant it's spoken? If there is such a word, I haven't found it yet. Now, you have been following the news, haven't you? 1,000 soldiers have been killed in our adventure in Iraq since it began. 1,000 people. There can't be enough time in the world to grieve for so many dead. 2 hurricanes have ripped through Florida, wreaking millions of dollars of damage and leaving countless people homeless. A 3rd hurricane might be on its way. Hundreds of children were killed in a Russian school by Chechen rebels in a botched standoff with the Russian military. I saw the nightmarish pictures. 7-year-olds cowering together on floors streaked with blood. And there's still time for plenty of individual tragedies. A girl looked for refuge at a fraternity house after getting into a car accident nearby. I think this was in Texas, but I could be wrong. And she was found dead in the frat living room more than a day later by someone giving a tour of the house. Nobody noticed her corpse in the middle of their house for at least 24 hours. And, closer to home, a grad student at a DC university fell out of an 8-story window a couple days ago. She was 24, my age. These have got to be signs that the world is collapsing in on itself, or at least the world that we know, on every level, individual, regional, national, international. Death in all its flavors is flaunting itself, reminding us that the shell of ordinary life that we built around ourselves is so fucking thin. It could crack at any moment. And what kind of terrible things would we see through that crack? Does John Kerry care? Does George Bush care? Would it even matter what the most powerful human in the world cares if the shell breaks? This afternoon at the Divide, I walked by Dale's office and heard him singing an old Rat's Kingdom song to himself softly. Ah, the clock is always slow. It is later than you think. Now there's an appropriate song. If you're talking about the doomsday clock, that is. And we're nigh on midnight this evening, too, but thankfully it's never too late to raid the Miller in the fridge. Posted by Mark Huntley at 11:38 p.m. Now we'll do one more tonight. Go from really dark to just plain weird. How's that sound? Saturday, September 11th, 2004. Never mope before bed. Did I mention that I called Gwendolyn on Thursday? No, looks like I didn't. I was too busy cataloging the woes of the world. God, what's wrong with me? I don't think I used to be like this. Anyway, Gwendolyn. We've got plans to meet up for dinner tonight in Friendship Heights, since she lives in that area and I don't mind ranging along the Red Line. If you're not familiar with the neighborhood, let me disappoint you by saying that it's not as magical as the name implies. Nor is Friendship Heights a metaphor for the fact that, as far as I know, we're not planning on having sex with each other. It's just a place with a few good restaurants near the metro stop. Chains mostly, but I'm no snob about that. I never found New England to be a great mecca of independent dining when I was growing up. It's been a while since I've been back. I wonder how Rents is doing today. Just glanced out the window at my little piece of Washington. It's looking pretty gray out there. Hopefully we won't get rained on this evening. I'm looking forward not just to catching up with Gwen some more, but asking her how much of our conversation at Prabha's and after Cafe Citron I've got right in my memories. I hope that she won't look quite so grave this time. If there is something bothering my long-lost buddy, I'd like to help her if I can. In fact, I'd welcome the opportunity to feel a tidbit more than useless. And speaking of being bothered, well, I guess that's not the right term. Maybe as an effect of all my moping yesterday, I had a dream last night. Typical for dreams, I can't recall most of it. The part that happened right before I woke up in a wild-eyed sweat at 3 a.m. was something like this. I was in a very dark area, I think outside, because there was soft, moist ground under my feet. All these little light objects kept striking my face and body like they were dead leaves blown around by a strong wind. Yet the sense I got was more of a place in springtime than in fall. I saw the small figure of a boy, glowing with weird silvery light, wandering in the space before my eyes, looking lost. I tried to call out to him, but no sound came out of my mouth. Then he faded away. A number of strange symbols appeared in the sky, suspended and turning in place, all of them glowing with that same silver that the glowing boy had. If they were some kind of language, I didn't know it, though obviously I'm not the Rosetta Stone. One of them tore loose and slowly floated down to the ground. It was changing from a squiggly character to a shape I was familiar with. A large knife. Like a dagger. Then this groaning, deep voice came from God knew where, like it was all around me, and light filled up my eyes. Light that was that shining silver, but as I watched, became tainted at the edges with a deep violet that was really an anti-color rather than a color. That seemed to suck at the silver, leach it, making a new color that was like what color death would be if death had a color. Like that makes any freaking sense whatsoever. That was when I woke up and puked Miller into the toilet. There's that classic Mark moment you've been waiting for. I keep thinking about those interesting images in the dream. Usually my dreams are about being late for class and unable to read the textbooks, or an awkward sexual encounter with somebody from Friends. This dream seemed a lot more useful, if unsettling. I actually found a mostly unused drawing pad in my closet and sketched out a few of the floaty symbols, as best as I could remember them. Art, it is not, but sketching them felt like something I needed to do. Well, guess I'd better get ready for dinner. Posted by Mark Huntley at 4:49 p.m. So that is our reading selection tonight from the Pseudo-Chronicles. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, you can buy me a coffee or check out my books at the links in my Instagram bio or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And you can also see the previous videos on the YouTubes on my channel. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you soon, Space Cowboy.